A little earlier, I spoke to Vladimir Kara-Murza, a Russian dissident and campaigner for democracy who believes he was twice poisoned by the state. I asked him what advice he had for Yulia Skripal.
First of all, I'm very happy for her on a human level, and it is sometimes, thankfully, possible to survive these things. And of course, I'm speaking as somebody who has survived them twice in 2015 and again last year in 2017 in Moscow. And I can tell you it does take a long time after these incidents to get back to more or less normal physically, psychologically, in many ways. I mean, after the first time I was poisoned in 2015, I had to learn to walk again physically. I had to learn to do so many things. Again, it's astonishing how quickly your body loses strength and loses, everything. But, I'm not the one to complain. I was given about a 5% chance to survive. That's what doctors told my wife when I was poisoned both times. And, I'm sitting here speaking to you today, very happy, very fortunate to be doing so. And I'm very happy for Sergei and Yulia, and I hope they make a full recovery, although it's important to have patience and to persevere in this, because it does take a long time, but it can happen and it is possible.
You talk about the physical effects and the psychological effects. I'm wondering how it actually affects how you live now.
Well, I mean, it did take a long time, especially the first time I was poisoned in 2015. I was in a coma for almost a month, and after that it does take a long while for the body to get back into normal. It took me more than a year to get back into shape after the first time. And I mean, there are some effects that are residual that are going to stay with me for the rest of my life.
But I mean, in the sense of, does it alter what you do, where you live, how public you are?
Well, in my case, no, because, I'm an opposition politician in Russia, and I think, frankly, we don't have much choice. We are not happy about the direction that the Putin regime is taking our country. We're not happy with the fact that our country is being ruled by an authoritarian kleptocracy that is destroying the prospects and the future of Russia, especially of the young generation of Russia.
Let me put to you, though, the Russian embassy response today. It said it was cautious and concerned that Britain had been so secretive. It suggested that Yulia Skripal may have even been abducted by this state.
Look, frankly, this has been a long-established pattern of the Kremlin. When things like this happen, they try to muddy the waters. They try to put out some responses that, I would use the word ridiculous, but unfortunately we're talking about grave and serious matters here, so ridiculous is perhaps not the right word.
Russian television, you'll remember, joked a month ago that London was a dangerous place to be a Russian. In Yulia Skripal's case, she's a young woman about to get married. She's not, as far as we know, a political activist. All
the cases are different. All the cases are individual. Somebody like me who is an active opposition activist, an opposition politician, again, we don't have much choice. We're going to continue doing our work. Somebody who is a more private person has, perhaps other choices that he or she can make. But I do want to actually say that this is a rare case when Russian state television actually got something right. Great Britain is a dangerous place for Russians, but not specifically for any kind of Russians, but for Russians who, in some way or another have crossed the path of the Kremlin regime. And when we talk about strange deaths or illnesses or assassinations of opponents of the Kremlin in the last few years, of course, the bulk of those have happened in our own country, in Russia, as for example, my two poisonings have. But I must say that the United Kingdom has been a close second. For decades, there has been this absolutely phenomenal hypocrisy and phenomenal double standard, whereby the people, the senior officials and high-ranking oligarchs in and around the Putin regime, the people who have been abusing and attacking and undermining the most fundamental norms of democracy and the rule of law in Russia, have been themselves enjoying the perks and the protections and the privileges of democracy and rule of law in Western countries, because it's in the West where they keep their money, buy real estate, buy yachts, luxury cars, educate their children, keep their wives and their mistresses. And the United Kingdom, I must say, has been a particularly favored destination. And many of the high-ranking officials and oligarchs of the Putin regime have properties in London, have children in British schools, have their bank accounts in British banks. And I think it is high time that the British government takes the lead on this issue and sends a clear message that such people, crooks and human rights abusers, will no longer be welcome on British soil and in British banks.
Let me just bring you back to tonight's story. Yulia Skripal will be living with this belief or knowledge that her own mother country has been trying to kill her.
Let me stop you right there. Too many people in the West equate Russia as a country and an unelected, corrupt, authoritarian clique that is sitting in the Kremlin. Please don't make that equation. Russia is a great and wonderful country with very different people, with very different voices, with many people who oppose the current regime and what it is doing. The Kremlin would like people to equate, people all over the world, to equate Russia and Putin. For me as a Russian, there's nothing more insulting that can be said about my country. Please don't fall for that line. Russia and the Putin regime are not the same thing.
Vladimir Kara-Murza, thank you very much indeed.